Welcome to the Technical Assistance webinar for fiscal year 2023 Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program. This webinar has been pre-recorded. In accordance with federal civil rights law and U.S. Department of Agricultural civil rights regulations and policies, the USDA, its agencies, offices, and employees, and institutions participating in or administering USDA programs are prohibited from discriminating based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, gender identity, including gender expression, sexual orientation, disability, age, marital status, family and parental status, income derived from a public assistance program, political beliefs, or reprisal or retaliation for prior civil rights activity in any program or activity conducted or funded by USDA. Remedies and complaint filing deadlines vary by program or incident. This slide contains contact information for individuals with disabilities to request reasonable accommodations, language access services for individuals with limited English proficiency, and for anyone wishing to file a complaint. A phone number, fax number, or postal mailing address is provided. To get started, I would like to introduce our NIFA team who works closely with the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program. I am Ashley Mueller, and I am a National Program Leader. Deborah Rayom is a Program Specialist. We are both in the Division of Family and Consumer Sciences within the Institute of Youth, Family, and Community at NIFA. Our contact information is provided on this screen. We encourage you to reach out directly to us with any questions you might have. In this webinar, I will cover the following topics: NIFA Overview, Program Overview, application and submission information, proposal evaluation process, and additional information and resources. So let's get started with the NIFA overview. The National Institute of Food and Agriculture, commonly referred to as NIFA, is the extramural science funding agency within USDA's Research, Education, and Economics Mission Area, also known as the REE Mission Area. NIFA invests in and supports initiatives that ensure the long-term viability of agriculture. NIFA provides funding and strategic leadership for programs that ensure groundbreaking discoveries in agriculture-related sciences and technologies to reach people who can put them into practice. NIFA supports research, education, and extension efforts in a wide range of scientific fields related to agricultural and behavioral sciences. These topics include advanced technologies, animals, business and economics, education, environment, farming and ranching, food science, food and nutrition security, human sciences, international, natural resources, and plants. In all of these areas, you will find NIFA working in pursuit of our vision. To address contemporary agricultural challenges, we seek to catalyze transformative discoveries and enhance education and engagement. Now let's take a closer look at the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program with a program overview. The purpose and priorities of the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program can be found in Part 1 of the RFA. This program supports innovative education-based approaches to address disaster preparedness and specific responses related to disasters or disaster threats caused by natural, human-made, or technological hazards, or by other factors that contribute to the exposure or vulnerability of a community. This program also continues to provide information and resources to USDA stakeholders and collaborators to improve decision-making before, during, and after disasters. This program also enables the cooperative extension system to do critical outreach and education during all phases of disasters, and it promotes awareness and capacity building. Disasters impact vulnerable populations disproportionately, and this program addresses disaster response activities that support those people who have been historically underserved. Project topics may include, but are not limited to, uncertainties caused by losses of economic infrastructure, extreme weather or other disasters, security breaches, human disease, volunteerism, local coordination, or high consequence animal diseases and plant pests. Project key areas can be found in Part 1 of the RFA. NIFA solicits applications for national, regional, multi-state, or state projects under the following key areas: education and technical assistance through interdisciplinary disaster or threat training programs and demonstration projects for problem solving, especially those which build upon already existing strengths and those that contribute to or expand the Extension Disaster Education Network and or Extension education materials related to disaster preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery. Interdisciplinary education, training, and technical assistance programs and demonstration projects that promote dialogue as a way to address complex issues, societal vulnerabilities, historically underserved audiences, and cultural understanding. Long-range family farm and community planning projects that enhance the implementation of programs that serve public needs in preparation for, during, and after disasters within impacted states and across impacted regions. Food security and health equity projects that address access to nutritious, safe food and to healthy communities of opportunities in preparation for and during and after disasters. Applicants may align projects with the Cooperative Extension National Framework for Health and Wellness, which is a tool to help Extension systematically address the programmatic area of health and wellness at the individual, community, environmental, and policy levels. And finally, communication delivery of key information that meets end users' needs in timely fashion with consideration of potentially limited communication channels due to disaster or threat situations. Project strategies can also be found in Part 1 of the RFA. Projects must support Extension activities through at least one of the following strategies. Number 1, enhance networks. Enhance national, regional, multi-state, or state networks that support official information by ensuring the content is in format appropriate to the situation and for the intended audience, delivered in a timely fashion, and is science-based. Number 2, provide communications leadership. Provide national, regional, multi-state, or state education and communications leadership to develop or add value to current educational materials regarding disaster or threat issues, using outreach methods through EDEN, Cooperative Extension, related social media, and/or other outlets. This strategy could include materials targeted to historically underserved audiences. For example, people who speak English as a second language, or people with low literacy, or limited resource farmers and ranchers, and older adults who lack technology access or literacy. Number 3, develop and/or strengthen partnerships. Improve national, regional, state, or multi-state stakeholder partnerships, which might include the public government at all levels, nonprofit and/or volunteer opportunities and organizations, academia, and/or industry to prepare for and respond to disasters or threats through Extension education. And number 4, deliver Extension education. Deliver Extension education to affected people and communities in one or more states to address the effects of a major declared disaster, widespread disaster conditions, public health emergencies, or social unrest that occurred no more than 12 months prior to the application due date of this RFA. Eligibility requirements for the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program can be found in Part 3 of the RFA. Applications may only be submitted by 1862 land-grant institutions in the 50 states and the U.S. territories, American Samoa, Guam, Micronesia, Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Potential applicants should be aware that award recipients may subcontract to organizations not eligible to apply, provided such organizations are necessary for the conduct of the project. 1862 land-grant institutions may partner with each other as well with other land-grant institutions, like 1890s institutions and 1994 institutions, non-land-grant institutions, and non-governmental organizations within their state or their region on joint proposals. Matching information for the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program can also be found in Part 3 of the RFA. For this program, matching is required. Applicants must provide matching contributions on a dollar-for-dollar basis for all federal funds awarded under this program. To comply with the matching requirements, applicants are required to provide 100% matching funds from non-federal sources for all proposed federal funds sought in the application. In-kind and third-party contributions are not allowed for this program. Thus, all matching funds must come from the applicant institution. Please note that subawards or partner match would be considered third-party. With regards to matching, only 50% matching funds are required for Puerto Rico, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. NIFA may consider waiver of match for these territories. Consistent with 48 U.S.C. 1469 A.D. and 1469 A, note, notwithstanding any other provision of law, in the case of American Samoa, Guam, the Virgin Islands, and the Northern Mariana Islands, NIFA may waive any requirement for local matching funds under $200,000, including in-kind contributions. There are two grant types for this program. They are standard grant and planning grant. Table 2, presented in Part 1 of the RFA, provides a quick snapshot of these grant types. I will discuss each of these grant types in more detail on the following slides. The first grant type is the standard grant. Standard awards of federal funds for this grant will not exceed $150,000. The amount requested will vary depending on the geographic scope of the project, for example, national, regional, multi-state, or state, and the urgency of the need or needs being addressed. For standard grants, project periods typically range from 24 to 36 months. Finally, only standard grant applications that address one or more of the following strategies will be considered for funding. 1, enhance networks. 2, provide communications leadership. 3, develop and or strengthen partnerships. And 4, deliver extension education. The second grant type is planning grant. Planning awards of federal funds for this grant will not exceed $15,000. For planning grants, the project period is 12 months. Another key feature of planning grants in this program is that these are not renewable. The budget for the planning grant may include an appropriate amount for transportation and subsistence costs for participants and other related costs. Applicants must include an itemized breakdown of all support requested in the budget justification. Funding restrictions for the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program can be found in Part 4 of the RFA. Please note that indirect cost is not authorized for this RFA. Pursuant to Section 1473 of the National Agriculture Research, Extension, and Teaching Policy Act of 1977, as amended, 7 U.S.C. 3319, indirect costs and tuition remission are not allowable costs under Section 3B and 3C of the Smith-Lever Act projects, and no funds will be approved for this purpose. Costs that are a part of an institution's indirect cost pool, for example, administrative or clerical salaries, may not be reclassified as direct costs for the purpose of making them allowable. Successful applicants must not use grant funds awarded under the authority of this RFA to renovate or refurbish research, education, or extension space, purchase or install fixed equipment in such space, or to plan, repair, rehabilitate, acquire, or construct buildings or facilities. Now let's focus on the RFA details for the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program. Table 2, presented in Part 1 of the RFA, provides key information about the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program. Note the available funding, the program code, and maximum funding per award. The application deadline is listed in the RFA, which can be found on NIFA's funding opportunity page for this program. This slide provides information on the RFA requirements at a glance. More about each of these application components will be discussed on the following slides. However, applicants might find this quick overview helpful. Applicants are encouraged to include a one-page table of contents. The table of contents will not count towards the project narrative's page limit. The project narrative for this program is limited to 17 pages, which includes tables and figures that support the project narrative. A data management plan is required for all NIFA competitive grant programs. The data management plan is limited to 2 pages, and it does not count toward the page limit for the project narrative, but it should not be used to circumvent the project narrative page limit. If an applicant is resubmitting an application, a 1-page response must be included. It does not count towards the page limit. And finally, applicants may include commitment letters and a bibliography and are encouraged to refer to Part 4 of the RFA for more details on these components. Application and submission information for the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program can be found in Part 4 of the RFA. The project narrative must not exceed 17 1.5 spaced pages of written text formatted with 1-inch page margins and using Times New Roman 12-point font. The page limit includes tables and figures. The page limit and parameters outlined here ensure fair and equitable competition. Appendices to the project narrative are allowed if they are directly germane to the proposed project. Do not add appendices to circumvent the page limit. Pages that exceed the page limit of the project narratives will not be reviewed. In developing the project narrative section of your application, use the section headings listed in the RFA. Section A, Introduction. Section B, Rationale and Significance. Section C, Goals and Objectives. Section D, Approach or Methodology. Section E, Project Performance Assessment. Section F, Cooperation and Institutional Involvement. Section G, Project Timeline. Section H, Logic Model. And Section I, Response to Previous Review, if applicable. Applicants must keep the contents of sections separate. Do not combine sections of the project narrative. For example, do not indicate that the response for Section B is in Section D. For information on commitment letters and the bibliography, applicants are encouraged to refer to Part 4 of the RFA. The Data Management Plan is a required document for this program. The Data Management Plan is limited to 2 pages and does not count towards the page limit for the project narrative and should not be used to circumvent the project page limit. If a project does not include data collection, for example, a meeting with no proceedings, the Data Management Plan document could be limited to the following statement: no data will be produced, with a clear explanation. The Data Management Plan must include the following components depending on the type of research, education, and extension activities being conducted. They include expected data type, data format, data storage and preservation, data sharing, protection and public access, and roles and responsibilities. Applicants are encouraged to visit the link on this slide to learn more about the Data Management Plan. Applicants must be aware that NIFA only accepts electronic submission of applications. NIFA Grants Application Guide is available on this slide. Applicants are strongly encouraged to review it. Application documents must be in a portable document format, known as PDF, to be accepted by NIFA, including your narrative and budget justifications. It is important to note that grants.gov may allow other formats, but NIFA does not. Also, applicants must not use a third-party PDF builder. Now let's turn to the proposal evaluation process for the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program. The application review requirements for the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program can be found in Part 5 of the RFA. NIFA evaluates each application in a 2-part process. First, we screen each application to ensure that it meets the administrative requirements set forth in the RFA. All administrative requirements must be met in order for the application to proceed to the next level of review. Second, a scientific peer review process is used to technically evaluate applications that have met the administrative requirements using a review panel. This slide represents the scientific peer review process for this program. First, proposals will be assigned to review to at least 3 reviewers with expertise in the proposed topic. Then, reviewers will produce individual reviews of each proposal, evaluating the strengths and weaknesses. After this, the written reviews will then be used to begin the panel discussions with other reviewers serving on the peer review panel. Finally, through these discussions, peer review panelists will come to consensus on the final rating and ranking of proposals. NIFA will use the following criteria weighted equally to evaluate applications: the potential for advancing education about the disaster or threat preparedness and response significance of the problem, proposed approach and cooperative linkages, institutional capability and capacity building, key personnel, and budget and cost effectiveness. Applicants are strongly encouraged to review Part 5 of the RFA for detailed descriptions of each of the evaluation criteria. This slide presents the tentative general timeline for NIFA's competitive grant programs. Please note that on average, a competitive program takes about 3 to 5 months from the proposal due date to an award being made to an institution. NIFA will keep applicants updated as we are able, and we would appreciate your patience. Finally, let's review additional information for the Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program. NIFA intends to fund projects to implement applied research, education, and extension programs that serve public needs in preparation for, during, and after disasters or disaster threats. Regional, multi-state, or national efforts are prioritized. Highly replicable single-state projects may be considered if a strong plan for scalability and transferring successful methods to other states is included. This program will also fund the development of educational programs and demonstration activities focusing on disaster preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation. The most competitive proposals will provide educational and communication leadership across an optimized mix of these and other resources. NIFA welcomes proposals that add new or build upon existing web-based educational materials available through the Extension Disaster Education Network resource dashboard. In such instances, applicants may contact the Eden executive officers during proposal formulation to best solicit guidance on how to coordinate with Eden and to secure a letter of commitment as appropriate. NIFA's current research information system, also known as CRIS, is a helpful tool for applicants. The link to recently funded Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program projects is available on this slide. Applicants are encouraged to review the awarded projects to learn about this grant program's priorities. To learn about upcoming NIFA events and request for application deadlines, NIFA encourages applicants to review our NIFA events calendar and our RFA calendar. NIFA has also curated a variety of key and helpful resources for applicants. This slide contains links to resources on funding opportunities, guides, and other information. We encourage applicants to take time and explore what NIFA has to offer. Applicants who have questions or comments regarding this program and the RFA can reach out to me, the National Program Leader, or to Deborah Rayom, the Program Specialist. We are happy to help. This concludes the Technical Assistance webinar for Fiscal Year 2023 Smith-Lever Special Needs Competitive Grant Program. Thanks for watching.